Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Her name was Eleanor Whitman, a young heiress from a wealthy and influential family. Her life had always been dictated by her parents' rules: elegance, strategic marriages, impeccable appearances. But Eleanor dreamed of a freedom denied her, of a sincere love far removed from calculations and contracts. One day, under family pressure, she was forced to marry a young man presented to her as Samuel Hart, a modest, poor man, but known for his honesty and simplicity. Refusing the marriage, Eleanor nevertheless resigned herself to it, aware that her choice had no place in this world where money and prestige ruled everything. The wedding took place in a sumptuous mansion, decorated with flowers and sparkling chandeliers. But from the very first night, Eleanor sensed that something was wrong. Samuel, despite his unassuming appearance, seemed to conceal a self-assurance and worldly knowledge far greater than he let on. A few days later, during a casual conversation, Eleanor made a startling discovery: Samuel was not at all the poor man she had been told he was. Behind that mask of modesty hid a powerful heir, a man of influence and wealth far exceeding her own, playing the role of the simpleton to observe his true character. Eleanor's world was turned upside down. She realized that her life of privilege and pretense wasn't the only path available. And faced with this mysterious and intelligent man, she had to decide whether she would continue playing the role of the rich and obedient girl, or whether she would accept the truth and true love behind the mask. Eleanor Whitman gazed at the family mansion from her bedroom window, her heart heavy. The rain fell softly, as if to weep with her. For weeks, her parents had pressured her to marry a certain Samuel Hart, a young man they described as simple, honest, and without fortune. But Eleanor knew the truth: her marriage would never be a choice, only an arrangement to maintain the perfect image of the Whitman family. The wedding day arrived. The servants bustled about, fresh flowers perfumed the hall, and the main chandelier reflected 1,000 glimmers of light on the immaculate marble. Eleanor, dressed in a sparkling white gown, descended the stairs with forced grace. Her face was impassive, but her mind seethed with rebellion and fear. Samuel Hart was there, standing near the makeshift altar in the main living room. At first glance, he seemed to fit his parents' description: modest, reserved, almost shy. But Eleanor couldn't help noticing the strange glint in his eyes, an intelligence and self-assurance that far surpassed the simplicity she had been led to believe. The wedding was celebrated quickly, without any passionate outbursts, but with all the solemnity that the Whitman family demanded. Eleanor felt every moment as if it were a weight on her shoulders. When Samuel took her hand, she expected awkwardness or embarrassment, but he held it with a gentle firmness, an assurance that surprised her. After the ceremony, during the evening reception, Eleanor discreetly observed Samuel. He chatted with the guests with an ease that contrasted sharply with the image of a poor and simple young man. He seemed to know details about art, business, and even local politics, subjects a man of his supposed station would never have discussed. Doubt began to take root in Eleanor's mind. And that first wedding evening was marked by an obsessive question: who was Samuel Hart really? The next morning, Eleanor awoke in the sumptuous bedroom her supposedly poor husband shared with her. Sunlight filtering through the curtains illuminated the velvet draperies and solid wood furniture. Everything about it exuded luxury, but Eleanor pretended not to notice. She refused to be intimidated by appearances. At breakfast, Samuel sat opposite her with surprising calm. He spoke with a precision and erudition that betrayed a sharp mind. He knew the names of the creators of the artwork in the hall, the rare wines in the family cellar, and even details of local business that Eleanor's parents considered inaccessible for a poor man. "Eleanor," he said softly, but with natural authority, "have you ever thought that things are always presented to us in only one way?" I don't understand," she replied, intrigued but defensive. Samuel smiled slightly, as if he were savoring a secret that only she could discover. In the following days, Eleanor began to notice other strange details. Samuel knew the Manor's employees perfectly well, but no one dared to disrespect him. He appeared to have access to financial documents and accounts whose existence Eleanor was unaware of. Sometimes she caught looks of respect or even of fear on the part of the guests, as if Samuel held an invisible power. One night, while trying to solve this enigma, Eleanor found an object left by Samuel on the bedside table, a gold watch engraved with a name she immediately recognized as belonging to one of the city's most influential families. Her heart pounded. Could it be that Samuel? Eleanor's doubt turned into partial certainty. Her husband was not the man her parents had described. And behind that unassuming facade lay a secret capable of shattering her entire life. That night, she went to bed with a nagging question: is Samuel Hart really poor, or is he playing a role to test his true nature? The days passed, but Eleanor couldn't shake the doubt from her mind. Every gesture from Samuel, every word exchanged, seemed to conceal a deeper meaning. She finally decided to stop being satisfied with mere suspicions and to seek answers for herself. One afternoon, while Samuel was busy reading in the living room, Eleanor approached and said, "Samuel, I wonder, why do you always play it cool? Why do you never show who you really are?" Samuel looked up from his book, a barely perceptible smile on his lips, and replied in a soft but confident voice. "Because the truth isn't always revealed right away, Eleanor. Sometimes, you have to observe, understand, before judging." This answer left her perplexed, but she felt a pang of admiration mixed with her frustration. Samuel never seemed rushed, never frightened by the curiosity or distrust of others. He controlled the situation with apparent ease. A few days later, Eleanor received an unexpected invitation, a business visit to the city with Samuel. She expected a modest meeting, as a poor man might have. But when they arrived, Eleanor was struck by the elegance of the offices, the presence of employees who greeted Samuel with respect and deference, and the professionalism of the documents he handled. "Samuel," she murmured, almost incredulous, "what does all this mean?" He turned to her, his face grave, and said, "Eleanor, what you think you know about me is just a facade. My name, Samuel Hart, is only part of my identity. What you see here is my real life." Eleanor felt the world crumble around her. The man she had believed to be simple and poor was in reality an influential heir, a respected strategist in business and society. Every modest gesture, every humble smile he had shown was nothing but a carefully constructed cover. Why did you hide it from me?" she asked, her voice trembling. Samuel approached and took her hand. "To truly know you, without being influenced by my name or my fortune. I wanted you to love me for who I am, not for what I possess." For Eleanor, everything changed at that moment. The forced marriage she dreaded transformed into a fascinating enigma. And faced with this mysterious man, she understood that she was not only married to Samuel Hart, but to a world she had never imagined. After the revelation, Eleanor felt a mixture of admiration and confusion. The Samuel she thought she knew didn't exist. Before her stood a complex, intelligent, influential, and mysterious man. But despite the surprise, Eleanor knew she had to understand this new world into which she had just been plunged. The next day, Samuel invited her to experience his daily life. They went to an elegant building in the city center, headquarters of a company renowned for its investments and influence on the city. Every floor seemed to exude power, impeccable assistants, respectful executives, and an environment where every detail was meticulously planned. "Eleanor," said Samuel, noticing her astonishment, "many judge others by what they possess or their appearance. I prefer to observe the heart and the mind." They entered a meeting room where Samuel was chairing an important discussion with foreign partners. Eleanor remained in the background, fascinated by her husband's composure. Every word, every gesture demonstrated complete control of the situation. After the meeting, in his sumptuous office, Samuel turned to Eleanor. "This world may seem intimidating, but I wanted to show you that it is not wealth or power that defines a person, but the way they act in the face of them." Eleanor felt a new perspective opening up before her. The Samuel she knew as a poor simpleton had chosen to reveal his true nature to her gradually, to test her sincerity and character. She then understood that their marriage was not just a family arrangement, it was also a test, a game of truth and mutual discovery. "And what about me?" she asked softly. "What do you really want from me, Samuel?" He smiled, taking her hand. That you be yourself, Eleanor. That you love me for who I am, and not for what I represent. For the first time since her marriage, Eleanor felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. She knew the path to understanding Samuel and his world would be long and fraught with challenges. But she also sensed that this journey could transform their relationship and reveal a true love, beyond appearances and pretense. As Eleanor began to adjust to her new life, Samuel decided to introduce her to some key people in his world. They visited his main office, where a dedicated team of assistants and collaborators awaited them. Eleanor observed closely. Each person seemed to respect Samuel not only for his power, but also for his sense of justice and his vision. However, not all the looks reflected only admiration. Eleanor sensed nuances of jealousy, mistrust, and rivalry, as if some people had never fully accepted her authority. "Eleanor," Samuel said, noticing her concern, "you will soon see that wealth and influence bring as many challenges as privileges. Some people have a hard time accepting what they don't understand." They then met Madeline, an elegant and authoritative woman, a longtime associate of Samuel's. She stared at Eleanor with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "Samuel didn't tell me he was getting married so quickly," she said softly, but loud enough for Eleanor to hear. "Madeline," Samuel replied calmly, "Eleanor isn't here to impress anyone. She's here because I love her." The tension eased slightly, but Eleanor understood that she had to navigate this new world with caution. She also realized that some people knew parts of Samuel's past that he himself had not yet shared with her. Later that day, Eleanor discovered a private office filled with documents and old photographs. She immediately recognized clues about Samuel's early life, his influential family, and the difficult choices he had made to get where he was. Each photograph told a story of sacrifice, struggle, and carefully planned strategies. For Eleanor, these discoveries reinforced her admiration, but also her sense of distance. The Samuel she knew as simple and humble was now a complex man, shaped by power, responsibility, and secrecy. She understood that their marriage was not just a personal union, but an immersion in a world where every relationship could be strategic and every gesture scrutinized. The day left her exhausted but strangely excited. She knew that the real test wasn't understanding Samuel, but whether she could fully accept him, with his mysteries, his responsibilities, and his past. A few weeks had passed since Samuel's true identity was revealed. Eleanor was beginning to adjust to his new world, but she still felt a veil of mystery surrounding him. Samuel, aware of her curiosity and caution, decided to propose a subtle test to gauge her trust and sincerity. One morning, he invited her to a private meeting in a discreet hotel in the city, far from his luxurious office and his entourage. Eleanor, intrigued but nervous, accepted. "Today," said Samuel as he entered the room, "I want you to see this world as it truly is, without facade or mask." They were greeted by influential business partners, but the atmosphere was tense. Samuel pretended to receive an urgent message and asked Eleanor to handle a small negotiation with a wary investor on her own. Eleanor felt her heart race. It wasn't an easy task. She had to convince someone who didn't know her and who saw her only as the wife of a rich man. Yet, she remembered Samuel's advice: act with your heart, not your title. Cautiously but resolutely, Eleanor initiated the conversation, using both her intelligence and her intuition. To her great surprise, the investor eventually smiled and accepted her proposal. Samuel watched him discreetly, a satisfied smile on his lips. "You see, Eleanor," he said, taking her hand after the meeting, "trust isn't asked for, it's earned. And the trust you give me, I never take for granted." Eleanor then understood that this ordeal was not only for her, but for Samuel as well. It was testing her ability to understand his world, to navigate complexity, and to accept the person he truly was, beyond the facade of poor simpleton. That day marked a turning point. Eleanor realized that her marriage was not an imposed burden, but a true adventure, where every decision and every gesture had weight, and where love had to be built on trust and sincerity. As they returned to the manor, Eleanor felt a new certainty. Despite the mysteries and challenges, she was ready to discover Samuel, by his side, fully and without fear. As Eleanor gradually grew accustomed to Samuel's luxurious and complex lifestyle, she discovered that his world was not free from criticism and jealousy. Whispers circulated among partners and some close associates. How can a woman outside this world understand Samuel and his business? One afternoon, during a business lunch, Eleanor felt the heavy stares and whispers. She noticed Madeline, the influential colleague, staring at her with an intensity mixed with defiance and mistrust. "Eleanor," Samuel said calmly, sitting down beside her, "let them talk. Other people's opinions don't define who you are." Yet, Eleanor felt a pang of worry. Even though she knew the truth about Samuel and his identity, the pressure of stares and judgments from others was beginning to weigh on her. She realized that her marriage, already complicated by the discovery of Samuel, was now facing another test, that of resisting criticism and envy. Later that evening, Eleanor received an anonymous message, a letter implying that she was nothing more than a forced girl and that she didn't deserve Samuel. The insulting tone and innuendo upset her, but she decided not to panic. "Samuel," she said, showing him the letter, "some people don't want us to be happy." Samuel gently took her by the shoulders. "Eleanor, remember, this world has always been full of snap judgments and rivalries. What we build together depends not on whispers, but on our trust and courage." That night, Eleanor understood that her path alongside Samuel would be fraught with multiple trials, not only discovering his identity and accepting his greatness, but also facing the jealousies, criticisms, and intrigues surrounding their marriage. For the first time, she felt determined to no longer be just an observant wife, but a partner capable of walking alongside Samuel, ready to face the challenges of his world, and to protect their relationship from outside attacks. Despite the growing trust between Eleanor and Samuel, Samuel's past continued to cast a shadow over their marriage. One afternoon, while discreetly exploring Samuel's private study at the manor, Eleanor discovered a file marked with her name. Curious, she opened it and found letters, old photographs, and documents relating to events Samuel had never mentioned. She discovered details about his youth, family sacrifices, difficult choices, and even strategic alliances he had forged to protect his legacy and his business. Some letters revealed threats against his family and attempts at manipulation by influential partners. Eleanor realized that Samuel had built his life on caution, strategy, and sometimes deceit. This discovery deeply troubled her. She understood that the humble and unassuming man she thought she knew had been shaped by painful experiences and overwhelming responsibilities. She also felt a mixture of fear and admiration, fear at the complexity of his world, and admiration for his strength and resilience. That evening, Eleanor decided to approach Samuel tactfully. "Samuel, I've come across some things, your past, your decisions, everything you've been through. I understand better why you're hiding certain things." Samuel observed him attentively, a slight smile on his lips. "Eleanor, I knew that one day you would discover this past. But it's not just what I did that matters, it's what we are going to build together now." This conversation marked a turning point in their relationship. Eleanor understood that the true test of their marriage lay not only in the discovery of his identity or wealth, but in how they could navigate together between past, secrets, and future ambitions. For the first time, Eleanor felt that their union could go beyond mere appearances and transform into a solid partnership, based on mutual understanding, trust, and love. Just as their relationship was beginning to solidify, an unexpected crisis erupted. A malicious rumor circulated in business and social circles. Someone claimed that Samuel had deceived Eleanor to obtain her name and inheritance. The entirely false news spread rapidly, and Eleanor immediately felt the pressure mounting. Curious glances and whispers were everywhere, in the manor, at public gatherings, and even among some of Samuel's associates. The young heiress, who had learned to be wary of judgment, felt her patience and confidence being tested. "Samuel," she said angrily and frustrated, "how can they believe that? After everything we've shared." Samuel gently took her hand. "Eleanor, this world is cruel to what it doesn't understand. We can't control the rumors, but we can control our actions. And the truth always comes out in the end." To weather this storm, Samuel and Eleanor decided to act together. They held a private conference with Samuel's key colleagues and partners to clarify the situation. Eleanor, for the first time, spoke publicly alongside her husband, confidently affirming their sincerity and mutual respect. "I'm not here to play a role," she said calmly. "I'm Samuel's wife, and this marriage is based on trust and love, not money or manipulation." Eleanor's strength and conviction impressed those who listened to her. The rumors began to dissipate, replaced by a growing respect for her courage and frankness. Samuel, observing Eleanor, felt a profound pride. The woman he had chosen, and who had been forced into this marriage, was now asserting herself with strength and dignity in her world. This ordeal marked a decisive turning point. Eleanor and Samuel were no longer just husband and wife, but partners united against external challenges. Their relationship had withstood the storm and emerged stronger, prepared to face the next mysteries and revelations that life had in store for them. The marriage had weathered revelations, trials, and storms. Eleanor had discovered the true Samuel, a man both humble and powerful, intelligent and kind, shaped by secrets, sacrifices, and overwhelming responsibilities. But the final mystery remained: why had Samuel chosen to conceal his true identity from the very beginning? One evening, in the garden lit by lanterns, Samuel took Eleanor by the hand and led her to a small pavilion. "Eleanor," he said softly, "it's time you knew everything, without masks or secrets." He then told her his whole story, his influential family, the threats he had endured, the strategic alliances he had forged, and the sacrifices he had made to protect what he loved. But above all, he revealed the reason for his game of poverty. He wanted to be sure that the woman who would share his life would love him for who he was, and not for his name, his fortune, or his status. Eleanor, moved to tears, finally understood the full depth of this man. Every modest gesture, every humble smile had been a gentle and calculated test to truly know her. She felt an immense love blossoming within her, mingled with respect and admiration. "Samuel," she murmured, "I understand now. I love you not only for who you are, but for the strength and wisdom you hide behind your apparent simplicity." Samuel smiled, hugging Eleanor tightly. "And I love you for your patience, your courage, and your ability to see beyond appearances. You haven't been influenced by money or status, Eleanor. You are the woman who truly deserves to share my life." That night, beneath the starry sky, Eleanor and Samuel sealed their true love. The forced marriage, the secrets, and the trials had given way to a sincere, profound, and unwavering relationship. Eleanor was no longer merely an heiress bound by family rules. She had become the partner, friend, and confidant of a man who, behind his masks, had opened his heart and his world to her. Their story, which began with doubt and manipulation, ended in truth and love, proving that sometimes the greatest trials reveal the most beautiful truths.